Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Today, in this edition, we're going to be focusing on entrepreneurship with specific reference or emphasis on the young people of Liberia. My guest is joining us all the way from Australia, Mr. Amara V. Toure. Mr. Toure, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here.
And we are glad to have you. What's the time there in Australia?
The time is 6:35 a.m.
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, yeah.
Okay, this is Saturday. By the way, Amara has his Bachelor of Commerce, and he has his Bachelor in Commerce and Applied Finance, and he has a Master in International Trade and Development. He's the founder of the Creator Entrepreneur Group Limited, that's in Australia, and also founder of Affordable Solar Energy Solutions in Liberia. And he's the guy to talk about entrepreneurship. Again, Amara, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Also joining me, who is going to play both a role as a co-host and also a guest, is Quinnie Collins. Quinnie, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Quinnie is appearing for the first time she appeared was on the Liberian Dream, hosted by Mr. Leo Nupulu Johnson. Quinnie is an international business and marketing graduate, and she has experience in global partnership and business expansion. She's going to be the one adding the juice in this topic tonight, which is entrepreneurship in Liberia. Let's get things started. I want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. Joining us on a Focus on Liberia, where we strive to educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberian. So before our guest come in with his introductory remarks, let me pass it on to my co-host for a brief introductory remarks. Quinnie.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you to each one of you here today. It's Saturday, and by just having the time to go through what we're talking about today, we welcome each one of you and your expertise. I honestly admire. I'm from Australia too, so the fact that you're from Australia, this is amazing, because I myself, I'm an Australian immigrant. I only just relocated in the United States. So welcome everyone, welcome. Today we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, but also sharing diverse knowledge around that. Back to you, Denise.
And could you talk briefly about your background and your interest in this discussion?
Yeah, so for me, entrepreneurship simply means leadership. It's a leadership role where purpose is rooted into it. And it's that moment as an entrepreneur when you decide to do or provide a service or sell a product, you are devoting yourself to the community, you're devoting yourself to your nation, and you are becoming part of that dialogue that brings people together, solution thinkers. And I'm always driven by that, just to see how, as Liberian in a diaspora, how are we working together, how are we thinking together, and how are we building dialogue that promotes who we are and how and where we stand in our country and where our country stands.
Thank you so much. Now to our guest, Mr. Amara V. Toure Jr., who's joining us from Australia. Full disclosure, I think the last time I saw Amara was pretty close to 25 years ago. And I'm glad to meet you again, Amara. Welcome to Focus on Liberia for the first time. And coming on Focus on Liberia, we give you, we say welcome, we give you a bottle of water and say welcome, and let's get this going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me on this show. There are two parts to that. The invitation itself is really important for me as a person with a little knowledge in what we call entrepreneurship, for me to come and share that with the young people, as well as the people who want to get involved in that action. So I'm very happy to be here. That's the first thing. Second, for me to be able to share this on a platform where young people are listening from Liberia, and also giving their thought about entrepreneurship, because that's the way to go. If you look at global organizations now, they are all changing the way they engage young people. They're including entrepreneurship for a very good reason. If you look at the Millennium Development Goal, not a single time entrepreneurship was mentioned. But now if you look at the Sustainable Development Goal, you have a whole host of other things about entrepreneurship. So it is incumbent upon us, those of you who control large number of Liberians on your show, and those of us who can come and chip in with our ideas. So it's very important for us to collaborate and cooperate for us to share our knowledge to the young people. So it is very, very interesting for me to be here, and I'm very happy to be part of your show today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And the two of you will do most of the talking. I'll just be listening. So let's start with definition, right? What is entrepreneurship, Amara?
Okay, now I just want to broaden the scope on that definition, because it's not a monolithic definition by any means. So let's look at the production of goods and services anywhere in the world. You have what we term as factors of production. You have land, labor, and capital. So land will comprise everything that is on the land, everything that is beneath the land, and everything that is above the land. For example, mineral resources that are found beneath the land, and resources that incorporate all of that, and the activities that are happening in the earth crust. Now, when we come on the surface of the land, we talk about the rivers, the mountains, all of the things that we found on the surface of the land, which include farmlands and other things. Then we go above the land, we have what we call the ecosystem, the climate, the weather, and all of that. So when you have that, the reward you can get that is rent. Then you have labor, which can be a quantity of labor that you have, like we have in China, the number of people who are willing and able to work. And also we have the quality of labor, for example, in Switzerland, in Japan. So when you put all of that together, we assist you in producing goods and services. So the reward you get for engaging labor will be wages and salary. And then you go to and capital. And many people have a view that money is capital, but from the entrepreneur point of view, money is not a capital. Money can only be used to buy goods and to buy goods that produce to buy equipment that produce goods and services. So the reward for that will be profit. So entrepreneurship is bringing all of these three things together to be able to produce goods and services in a market that is not existing, in a product that is not existing. An entrepreneur will bring up their own products and own services into that market to be able to serve humanity. So entrepreneurs, it comes from the word entreprendre, which is a French word, which means to engage and to get involved. So entrepreneurs are people in the world that get involved in producing goods and services that never existed before. So the group of people coming together called entrepreneurs and working together is called entrepreneurship.
Quinnie, nodding. Go ahead.
I know I'm nodding because he, Amara, you pretty much tackle everything. You went into just the name itself and what it symbolizes. But, to add on your point, you are saying something about profits, and it's not all about money, and it's about profit. Am I right, or am I?
Yeah, you're right. When we talk about profit, sometimes it can be the physical profit that everyone knows, which include money, but it can also be social entrepreneurship, which will help people without having any money at the back of your mind. For example, if you look at Bangladesh, there is the person called Yunus Mohammed, who is involved in entrepreneurship. He hasn't earned a profit in the last 30 years. Right. So it's all about bringing people to a position where they can be productive.
And that's what you are saying, to get people involved. And people that are involved are entrepreneur. And that entrepreneurship, for me, it really comes down to relationship. And relationship that group people together within a community. And I know one of my mentor, Leo, always mentioned and always talk about this concept, which I always use when it comes to defining entrepreneurship or entrepreneur is that community effort, that collective effort. And I think that's a key to today's generation. And I think that's what you are tapping on, is that those that are involved, they're involved in a relationship that targets, a particular problem, but comes with a solution together with a team. And creating systems that are able to navigate people of all sectors and how they can create this inter-dialogue amongst us. And this is what Focus on Liberia really do a lot, bringing different experiences and different backgrounds. So I think for me, entrepreneurship really comes in mind to community building and collective thinking.
Yeah, that's it.
Great. And Amara, entrepreneurship and business. Sometimes when somebody start a business, let's say I have my little I start selling coal in Liberia. Am I an entrepreneur or am I making business? In other words, how is entrepreneurship different from making a business?
So let's look at entrepreneurship as a process that involved creating new products, working in new markets, and engaging new people who have not been engaged before. So if you start your business in an industry that already exists and you don't innovate, you don't create, you are just in business, and you get profit from interacting or selling your goods or services. But what we really want in Liberia is not involving in the existing businesses, but people who can create services and goods that never existed before. So you are involved in businesses that never existed before. For example, none of us knew that Facebook was something that would have existed. So if Mark Zuckerberg had thought about just a business, he would have just gone the same pathway that other people are going through, and then we'll be in the same position we were in 1960. But he thought that he can bring something that is quite innovative, quite creative to the humankind, so that they can solve some of the problems that we have. Today's show is being hosted on Facebook. That wouldn't have existed if Mark Zuckerberg was not an entrepreneur. If he was just a business person, we wouldn't have this creativity, we wouldn't have this innovation. So the difference is, I can have an existing business today, but without changing anything, without disrupting any market, you are in business. But when you start to look at the disruption of the market, producing new goods and services, you are an entrepreneur. For example, the taxi industry has been existing for a long period of time. No one tried to disrupt that market for more than 100 years until Uber came in. They didn't change the way we run the taxi up and down, but they changed the way you engage with the taxi. It is just taxi in a different innovative way. So Uber came and changed the industry, and the industry has been changing ever since. Even on the African continent, there are some semblance of Uber on the African continent, and all of that are coming now as a result of Uber disrupting the taxi market and producing a newly entire ecosystem that provides the same service but different sort of engagement.
You're blowing my mind away now, really, because I did economics in high school, and we studied entrepreneurship. We say, well, the factors of production, whoever brings them together, you're an entrepreneur. Now you say no. If you just do something that everybody is doing, you're talking about something new. So I don't know if you can help me that little more, because you're saying even though the business exists, if you're doing what everybody else is doing, you were just engaging in a business. But it got to be something new.
It has to be. For example, you have a business in Nigeria called Kobo 360. It is the same motorbike business. But this time around, the founder of that business, the entrepreneur who is behind that particular business, has introduced an app that you can sit in your office and call the keke person or the motorcyclist to come to your office and pick you up. And that provides convenience that never existed before. It was an entrepreneur that introduced that. Just bringing the factors of production together is not entrepreneurship by itself. You have to disrupt the market. You have to cannibalize yourself. For example, you have this business today and it's booming. But in 2 to 3 years, because you're working in what we call competitive market, where entry is very simple, where your profit is equal to your demand, and your demand is also equal to your marginal revenue. So in that position, if you don't cannibalize yourself, if you don't eat yourself up, other people are coming to eat you. So what entrepreneurs are doing, they're changing the way things are being from the bedrock, from the core of it, and adding other specific addition that can make services very, very important. I look at Facebook in 2008. There was no marketplace. Messenger was not in existence. But Facebook knows that if they don't include that, then people will come up and eat them. It's not just a matter of being in business, in the tech business. You also have to cannibalize yourself every time you do that. So entrepreneurs must be on their foot. Once you become an entrepreneur, you are opening a door to hell. And at the back of that, it is heaven. But you got to pass through hell first before you do that. And I read a book written by Malcolm Gladwell. He said that there was a general who always executed his people. And he would tell you, look, you got to run on that field. And there are people who have guns, they will shoot you down. If you survive, that's it. And there was another office door right behind the secretary. In that door, there was freedom. But many people chose to go on the field. They wanted to take risk. Freedom can be really, really close to you. But if you don't look, if you don't think about it, you're not going to get that freedom. So the best way to get to freedom is to do the hard thing. So if you want your life to be better, you got to do the hard thing. If you want your life to be harder, you got to do the simple things.
And he's throwing in more words. He say you have to cannibalize yourself. You have to eat yourself. So Quinnie, let me go to you if you have any question or comment before I will move forward with Mr. Toure, why this entrepreneurship is important. But let me get your comment or question first.
No. Honestly, for me, I always think that entrepreneurs think future, not present. So that's why they're never troubled by temporary challenges. They see these temporary challenges as a new market to adventure and as new opportunity to create value. And I know you are saying something about adding value in our services, creating new ways to do things, creating order and structure, in our methodology, or even changing the methodology around. As entrepreneur, like you were saying, you have to attack yourself first. And what that means is that you have to identify with yourself. Because when you come into this race where you're creating a whole new platform that, enable people to think different, to live different, to be part of financial prosperity, you are acting as a leader. And you're in a leadership role. So that really comes down to understanding yourself, understanding your position, and understanding your purpose. Because your purpose will make provision for you. And your purpose will allow you to attack the harder things and not the weakest thing, like what Amara was saying. So for the entrepreneurs out there, especially those that are, creating a new story and a new beginning, you must create a story that is centered around solution. In our today generation as entrepreneurs, you have to be a part of the solution. So I think to add to what Brother Amara was saying, it's all solution orientated. You must be solution oriented to think about the future and how you can be able to create services that change and add value to people's lives.
Thank you.
Now, I just want to add to that again, Quinnie. You did very well in trying to explain that. So entrepreneurs are not creating a solution to problem that they perceive. Right. They are creating solution to problem that has been brought to them by people that they're targeting. For example, you look at the Nokia mobile. Many of us use that mobile 10, 15 years ago. But where is it now? It's not there. The conversation around mobile phone around that time was, we don't want keyboard if we don't want to use it.
Right.
How can you remove that? Nokia said, now our design factor is to have all kinds of keyboard or all kinds of numbers and letters and things like that. And people were asking different questions.
Right.
Then came the iPhone. You will have absolutely no keyboard on your iPhone if you don't need it. Because the iPhone solved that problem. Today, the iPhone says 10% of the mobile phone in the world, and they receive 90% of the proceeds from mobile sale because they listen to the people. And the people are the one that provide the platform for what you are designing. So if I hear someone say, I'm going to create job, and I say to them, you have to create value first. If you create value, and then the job will come later. But if you say, I'm going to create job, but then what is the appetite for that problem that you're finding solution for? So there's always finding the appetite, finding the problem, and then finding solution.
I have a question. How then can local community members deliver that problem? Because most of the time we have a problem to deliver to entrepreneurs, but sometimes we're not delivering these problems in the right way, and we're not using the right tools and the right approach. So what are some approach as an entrepreneur that you can suggest for a community trying to improve financial literacy amongst the youth? So I don't know, what would be...
First of all, when I went to, I just grabbed some used panels from Australia to Liberia with the aim of selling them by pieces. Then all of a sudden, a young person appeared to me and said, look, I'm a technician. I want to sell this for you. I said, how do you do that? Then we went into a conversation and realized that the young person has one skill in entrepreneurship that is very, very hard to achieve, which is sale. Because if you don't sell, you don't make anything. He had the ability to sell, but he never knew how to interact with people. So he's involved in the installation of the solar panel, but he didn't have anyone who could provide him the equipment and who could teach him how to book clients who were calling him. So he would keep their number in his phone, he would lose them. And I said, why can't you buy a book and put their name there and put a date that you will be willing and able to get to them? In that, you provide what we call consistency in your business environment. And today, he's receiving more tenant than he used to have in the space of three months. Oh. So most of the time, the people are there, they have problems, but they don't know the piece of equipment or the service that will provide solution to them. Once you introduce options to them, they will say, oh, that's the solution of our problem. But they don't know how to verbalize it most of the time. But they have it in the back of their head and say, okay, we want solution to this problem. But if you introduce options to them, they'll say, okay, this is the solution to our problem.
Yeah.
First of all, you need to engage them. You need to put yourself, you need to be empathetic to their problem and try to help in finding solution to the problem that have been communicated to you.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with mentorship too, which I think is my second question. And sometimes people don't know how to verbally express the problem or deliver the problem. I think mentorship, in a sense, that it provides structure to be able to mentor people into identifying resources. I know an organization here in New Jersey, and it's called the Scholars. And they offer financial literacy to the youth and to the community. So offering options like you are saying, and providing knowledge to these people so that they can spread their thoughts and be able to attack different problems and come up with different solutions. What are your thoughts on that in terms of mentorship?
What you said, that this is one of the things that doesn't really exist in our ecosystem in Liberia. Mentorship is very, very important. In my life, I've had more than 10 mentors. And I've had interaction with people, more than 100 people, but real mentors, people who will sit and talk to me, people who will work on my resume, people who will work on my interview skills, people who will talk to me about my own the aspiration that I have. How can I dream that? Because to have a goal, to have a dream is one thing, but to have a goal that can lead you to the success of that dream is another thing. So in Liberia, that is not something that is encouraged. And people cannot walk to people in the street and say, look, I want you to be my mentor, because you don't know the background of that person. You don't know the expertise of that person. That's where government intervention comes in. Create a place for the young people to meet, like a hub, entrepreneurship hub, where people come and meet them. And then you can pinpoint some mentors who will come there and talk about their background. And the young person can say that, look, I want to be like that person. And they can associate themselves with that person in a way. So one thing we misconstrue in Liberia as well is the fact that you want everything to be in your mentor. You want your mentor to come with a complete package. I don't like that. Some of my mentors are not good people, but they have skills that I want. So if you start to investigate your mentor, oh, this person is like this person is like that, but they have a skill that you want. So we need to understand that the mentor does not have to be a complete package. A mentor can be someone that has a specific skill that you want. You need to focus on that aspect of the person rather than the holistic human being that you're looking at.
It's like building a house. You have to use different components. You have to use different resources. So for our network, it's diversity of skills and expertise that builds you, that prepares you, that, for me, honestly, I'm grateful to Leo Johnson, who is my mentor, and, really tapping on some of the key elements in terms of your professional and personal development, and really talking on leadership skills. I feel like leadership skills needs to be taught amongst entrepreneurs, because we have entrepreneurs, but do we have leaders?
Yeah.
So I think that's something we can talk about, Denise, when we're going to our next area. But looking at entrepreneurs as leaders, and do we have that leadership skills for that?
Thank you. And Mr. Toure, I was about to ask you about, you said instead of creating job, create value. I wanted you to expand on that, and then we're going to segue into why is entrepreneurship important, especially in post-war Liberia.
Okay. For example, if a person comes to you and say, look, I'm going to create a job. Job in what? It could be in agriculture. It could be in different service. You are, okay, what's the value attached to the job you want to create? What are the people who are demanding for that service or that good? If that is established, then the job will be created. The job is the result of the interest that people have in a specific good or a specific service. It is not to say we're going to create 100 jobs there, we're going to create 100 jobs, 200 jobs over there, but you need to create the demand first. Demand comes before the good or the service. So when you hear that, you should walk away knowing fully well that the person who is making that statement does not understand what entrepreneurship is about. It's about creating the value and then allowing people to come running after that value so that you can create a job as a result of that.
Great answer. And that leads us to why this whole idea of entrepreneurship is important in Liberia, especially post-war.
Okay, let's put that into context now. It's very difficult to extrapolate data from Liberia. But then look at our neighboring country and the data we get from ECOWAS and the AU as well. Every year, Africa produces 11 million young people, let's say potential employee, young people graduating from university, from trade school, and from high school as well. And the only jobs that are available on the entire continent are 3 million jobs. So if you look at 3 million...
Wait. You said Africa produces 11 million young people ready for job.
Yes.
Only 3 million jobs are available.
Yes. And 3 million mathematically is just 2.7% of 11. 27% of 11. So 3 is 27% of 27% minus and plus. So if we extrapolate that into our Liberian context, where it is very difficult to extrapolate data, you will realize that we even have a worse situation than the average number that we see from Africa. And the current job cannot cater to them. 72% of them will be unemployed. That is a national security issue. Because if they cannot meet up with their needs, wants can be something else. You can't get the iPhone mobile phone. You can't get the Samsung mobile. But you should be able to look after your health. You should be able to look after your rent. You should be able to buy clothes and put it on your back. But if you can't achieve that, that becomes a national security issue. Mm-hmm. So of all of that, 45.9% of our young people complete high school. 32% complete some sort of tertiary education. Then of that, only 76% unemployed in involuntary employment. That is not the employment that you and I enjoy. It's not an employment that we really apply for. Maybe they're working for their uncle or their father or their mother or the community. So of the 76% of those who are employed in some sort of employment whatsoever, you have 14.3% of them who are in salary employment, where they chose to be in that employment. And of all these people, you have 1/5 of them that do not have any employment benefit when they get older. That is a gloomy picture I have just painted. So the only thing that can really solve that problem is for the young people to get into the market, create their own jobs, basically. Because they can't sit back and look at other generations that have gone past who have never been employed before. So they need to create their own jobs. And things are becoming very easy now than when I was a kid. Because young people can now connect with other young people across the world using social media, using other media platforms. So it is very important and expedient for young people to look at the situation now and say, we have to create our own job. And the human capital is not lacking in Liberia. Right after the war that we fought, that killed more than 250,000 people, we have produced 2 Nobel Prize laureates within the space of less than 25 years. We produced the world best football player. So there is a cream of the crop. We have in the Australian system, Liberians are setting record at all levels. So we have an inherent group of people who can produce when they are put in the right amount. So if we wait for the current job that are being produced, which is the government is the bigger employer in the country, the government is not going to produce the job that the young people want. The young people themselves have to come. And they need to be coached on a different level. And that's why a show like yours and intervention like mine and Quinnie's, we're coming and help these young people to start thinking about it. The first thing you need to do, you need to think about it. When you think about it and you create a job, and young people ask me, I want to create a job here. I usually tell them, just start. There's no other thing about entrepreneurship, is just start. When you start, you will get more knowledge of what you're doing and you will become successful. If you don't start, you don't progress. And they talk about money. I just want to add that as a piece of a statement. You don't need money to start an entrepreneurship, but you will need money along the line to expand it. Nobody can invest in an idea. You have an idea in your head, Mr. Jai. Quinnie, you have an idea. I have an idea. And nobody is going to invest in our idea if we don't put our idea into practice. People invest in record, not in ideas.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my goodness. And just to add to that, our people don't buy into ideas, but tangible results. That's something I have learned. That's something that I take with me because it's essential. The ideas is good, but like you're saying, we must take action. Action with value in mind. Action with lasting change attached to it. Not temporary action, but an action that is lasting, that is sustainable, and that it fits into our national agenda and how we can collectively develop Liberia, coming together from different backgrounds and just immerse yourself, like immerse into failure. Like you have to, like what you're saying, you have to fail to know how you can then go from there, how you can then accelerate. And it comes to mentorship as well. And also one thing too, I was privileged to be at a conference where Nelson Mandela's son provides some lessons his grandfather hand over to him. And one thing he said that really, really strikes me was that we must agree on fact. We have to agree on fact.
Yes.
We have to. There is no around to it. And when we agreed on fact, we have to create a common ground where we can work together. Look, you cannot work with certain people, and that's okay. Certain people are not part of the equation. When it comes to entrepreneur creating that storytelling, you have to choose resources that align with that purpose, because not everything that comes to it is part of the overall outcomes. So
Yes.
if you're creating that common ground, you have to be selective. I think the lack of transparency in itself, that even the system that we have currently don't provide information on our own productivity. Most of the data, most of the information are based on assumptions. So if we come together as solution thinkers, we're coming to create a system that is so transparent that we can then work collectively together to achieve the overall objective. And it's something we are saying, it's that we have to build Liberia together. Liberia cannot be built by itself. And the entrepreneurs and stakeholders are essential to developing growth in Liberia. We must combine together and be able to achieve our common goal, but also our national agenda to sustainable and professional development in Liberia.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Toure, you said the Liberians should go and start their own business. I mean, someone in Liberia will say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. How can I do that? So even before we get there, let's look at the landscape. Discuss that with me. That will make my little nephew in Keba to be an entrepreneur. Let's discuss the landscape first.
Now, if you look at entrepreneurship, is a public-private initiative. So on the side of the public and the private, everything in Liberia is at a low point, whether it's private or public. But the private sectors are ahead of the public sector. For example, I've heard countless entrepreneurship programs and summits and meetings happening in Liberia. That is from a private initiative. But the public is not involved in entrepreneurship. There is no ministry in Liberia that is really linked with entrepreneurship. When you go on the website and look at the West African, the ECOWAS country, many of them have changed the name, the traditional names of their ministry to include entrepreneurship in it, one way or the other. So the young nephew that you mentioned there can look at the situation out of two ways. Either I stay in the current status quo and remain in that current status quo for the rest of my life, or whether I stand up and create value, which in turn create jobs. We can see that when the political season comes. Young Liberians are going out to defend a politician who is really inconsistent. And they can do that perfectly well. They go to social media platform. They do that. That is just entrepreneurship, but it's done in the wrong way. You're not producing any service that you can control. You are backing up an individual that you know will become inconsistent just 2 days from the day that you defended it on any social media platform. So young people need to take the task, knowing fully well that entrepreneurship is easier than to defend a politician. All of our political parties have involved the young people en masse to help them in their political quest. We are telling our young people today that you can go out there and look at a problem in your community and try to solve it. I just want to add one to you, because when I had a conversation with you a week or so ago, I talked about 3 young people that when I went to Guinea and I had some discussion in their classroom, they came back to me and said, look, we want to have something, but we don't know how to start. And I told them, look, I will buy you vests, the working vest. You go into the marketplace in Zerikore and look at the situation there and see whether something really bothers you. If nothing bothers you, then you have a huge problem. Young people need to be able to look out for things that bother them as young educated people. So they went in there, they saw kids who were selling in the street, and they came back to me and said, we saw kids who were selling. So I said, okay, that is a problem. How do you find solution to that problem? And 3 years on, these 3 young people are now employed in the UNDP program, and they are providing guardianship to young people who are selling in the street. So when people see them now, they run away from them. They say, these people are going to ask us why we are not in school. And as a result of that, they have procured some funding from Canada, and the UNDP is helping them. So that is the sort of thinking that we want our young people to get involved in. As Quinnie said, they need to get involved with mentors, and mentors need to be readily available for them to help them move to the next stage.
You said a very important thing that the young people, they are entrepreneurs. They are doing something already. And imagine a young person get on social media and is able to get votes for a politician. They are very good salespeople. But you are telling me that they are just doing it, they are just in the wrong place. How do we now help them change that? That there be a shift. Okay, you were selling pepper, now I want you to sell bitter ball. In other words, you are selling politician, now I want you to sell this product. How can we get to that point?
The only institution in town, the only big board in town are political parties. So what we need to bring is change the ecosystem and make entrepreneurship the big board in town, so that they can see their friend. We can have hubs, because all the political parties, many of them have headquarters. The young people go there and they see some of the people that they respect. They are delivering speeches and they are not as eloquent as they thought. Then the young person can say, I can do better than that person. I can go to the suburb and talk to people to vote for this politician. So if we have hubs, business hubs, entrepreneurship hubs around Monrovia, where young people can come, at least have a Wi-Fi connectivity, that is a public good. Private individuals are not likely to fund these kinds of things. It's the government responsibility to do that. Even to discover the New World from Spain to the United States was not done by any profit-motivated individual. It was done by the government of Spain to send Christopher Columbus to the New World. Because the government is not profit-driven. The government, as Quinnie said, responsibility has to be to produce young people who can go on to create jobs. So the government is not looking at how much profit do I get from that in terms of money, but they're looking at the profit in terms of increasing the human capacity of their citizens. So the government can do that. They provide Wi-Fi to a specific place where young people can go and meet and ask a question, what are you doing? Or I'm trying to get involved in agriculture, but I'm good at reading profit and loss statement. I'm good at reading cash flow statement. Let's join together and do this as a project. Most of the things that we're enjoying today were not done by one person, but they were done by a group of people with different skill set. So the young person now, in order to leave the politician, we need to produce another King Kong in town. And that King Kong will be the entrepreneurship hubs where they can go and listen to talks, and they get inspired by these talks, and they can go out and say Billable, as we said.
Liberia's entrepreneurship ecosystem. You keep mentioning ecosystem. Let's talk about Liberia's entrepreneurship ecosystem. Give me something.
Okay, you had a conversation with a young man, two young people the other day. They were talking about how messy our free port is.
Yeah.
You cannot bring a container and see all kinds of security people around you. You are a business person. You want to avoid all of these government officials. You want to get a container and go and sell. You have your customer waiting for you in Maryland County. How do you engage them? So the ecosystem is actually bad for businesses to, improve, to expand their scope, to scale. Scalability is a bigger thing. One of that is you don't have real clear directive that you can go on the internet and read and say, okay, these are the things that wait for me at the free port. That's the first thing. First of all, registration is very cheap by our standard. So sometimes we make a mistake about that. To register a sole proprietorship in Liberia is $2,000, 2,000 Liberian dollars. To register a corporation is $4,000. But that is the easier piece of the jigsaw. To get your document will take about 6 months. That is the average. Some people will go more than that, some people go less than that. But that's the average from my own experience. When you get that, to get document, I would say you are incorporated so that you can open a bank account where you can get valuable contracts, because you cannot have a contract without a bank account. We are avoiding corruption. So to open a bank account will go another 2 months or 3 months. So the ecosystem is actually not prepared, and there is no policy and directive in our ecosystem that will make you to know what you expect as a business person. So your nephew that you were talking about earlier in your earlier question will have difficulties. We're not going to sugarcoat that. We're not going to put that under the carpet. We have a series of problems in trying to register a business or get involved in entrepreneurship. So our job now and your platform will come together and advise government policy makers so that they can make these things easier for us. So the ecosystem is as worse as it has ever been, and it will continue to get worse.
Quinnie?
I know there's so much you are saying. I just cannot wait to connect with you afterwards to go in some of these nitty-gritty of how your knowledge. But one thing that we need to understand is that we as entrepreneurs, sometimes it's not time for implementation. Sometimes it's time for knowledge and networking. So that patient in terms of having a mentor guide you in a stage of research and development and identifying resources, you must then go back to that statement where I mentioned earlier, agreeing on the fact. Liberia right now, 70% of our school have been damaged or destroyed. Okay, those are facts, okay, by conflict. And then we have 20% of our public and community school have seats, and only 30% of the public school are functioning. So for an entrepreneur going into this game, here is the fact, okay? So now that you know the fact, you must, as an entrepreneur, act on resources or initiatives that will help you empower yourself and what you're trying to achieve. And this comes down to working with entrepreneurs, working with other like-minded entrepreneurs. I know, Brother Amara, you talk about the government in helping us creating these opportunities. But for me, there's a balance to this. We must now rely on our own self. As entrepreneurs, we must rely on other people ecosystem sometimes to combine it together, to work together without any government involvement. Even by saying that, we can work along with the government in certain projects that help us to empower our local community organization and inspire our Liberian population to be independent leaders and change maker in their community. So understanding your stage as an entrepreneur gives you so much knowledge into the ecosystem in which you are about to endeavor into. You must understand the dynamics. You cannot just be so ready to open a business. Most of us, we just want to do it. We want to jump into it. That's good. But my advice is jump into knowledge. Understand the market, understand the sector, understand the key players. Why are we creating system that's already there? Why are we building on it? Why are we creating new systems? Why not build on existing systems? Because by doing that, that's collectiveness. We're able to go further. That's community effort. As Liberian, we must look to our brother who's doing it. We must look to the little girl who have a passion and a dream. We must look to platforms like Focus on Liberia that amplify these messages, to have us on these platforms to tell other people, I think like you. I'm going where you're going. What you're saying, I align with that. Let's work together. Let's create this dialogue where we can be able to build systems that is absolutely have no connection with the government. If we need electricity to be improved, we need our roads to be improved. There are a lot of people in Liberian in the diaspora that are working in these fields. Why can't we come together with our expertise, our credential, and create that story that we need to tell our tomorrow youth? I'm not going to be here. You're not going to be here, Brother Amara and Denise. You're not going to be here. Who's going to take over this message that we start that's going to take it to the next level? And that's the question we need to start asking amongst ourselves as entrepreneurs. What are the message we're creating for our tomorrow generation? I think, Brother Amara, you can add to that. What are the message that you're creating for someone that will take on this task that you're starting?
So the first thing I would like to say to young people right now, our generation was so nationalistic. Okay, so if you were an accountant in Liberia, you are up against other accountants in Liberia. If you are an economist, you are up against other economists. But right now, the walls are falling. Borders are being removed through the free trade agreements. So now, if you are a young person in Liberia and there are opportunities for you to create something that will provide value to the people, if you don't do it, because of the free trade agreement that we are entering into, an entrepreneur from Ghana will create that. An entrepreneur from Nigeria will create that.
Yes.
So it's no longer going to be the same ball game over and over and again. We need to rise up now as young people and try to take our own destiny in our own hands. When I was a kid, if my sister wanted to, because I lived with my sister longer than I lived with my mom, if she wanted to make some dombo or fufu, it would take her 4 days to get that into the pot. We'll have to go and get the cassava and get the cassava and then, put that under pressure under the rock. And then the next day, we see how it's going. If it has some moisture in it, we continue to put some pressure. But today, you can leave home, tell your partner to prepare the soup for your fufu. You go into the shop and get the dust, the cassava dust, and make your fufu as soon as possible. And when I pick that up and I see made in Ghana, made in Nigeria, I am surprised. We have competitive advantage to produce more cassava in Liberia than any country in the sub-region. Why it is not written made in Liberia? That worries me.
Even palm butter that the Grebo people have their stamp on is coming from Ghana. So that leads us to some business startup ideas for entrepreneurs in Liberia. We are running against that. I want to bring in our viewers. But let's talk about some ideas for entrepreneurs in Liberia, Mr. Toure.
Yes, first of all, there's a whole host of other things. If I can say what are the ideas then that presupposes that there is no entrepreneurship. There's a young boy lying in Playboy there who has an idea that I can never have. A young boy in Flela, in Toure, has an idea. So what I can say, I'm going to follow a historical record. Now, what's about agriculture? I just alluded to that with the cassava stuff. So we have agriculture contributing 38.8% to our GDP. 70% of our citizens are involved in agriculture. Yet, agriculture is not being in the psyche, in the ecosystem of Liberians for many, 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 many years, since our creation. So that's a competitive advantage for young people. You can start from the cultivation to the harvesting to the value chain, because profits are always found in the value chain. You can make farm today. If you don't have a value chain, like production of these things that I mentioned, and you mentioned about the palm butter, there will be no profit for the farmer. And young people can form groupings that will be the voice of these farmers. Like, for example, Cassava Grower Association. We are in Monrovia. We look at the price in the market. We tell the farmer there, you don't have to come to Monrovia. We'll send a truck there, and we will give you your money in 1 week. We advocate. The farmers do not have the capability of advocating for themselves. So that's another entrepreneurial area that young people need to form some grouping that they will call themselves Mango Grower Association, or Cassava Grower Association, or Potato Grower Association, so that they can add value to the farming. Like, for example, renewable energy. 7%, only 7% of our population have electricity. That is in the capital. But if you walk out of the capital, less than 2% of our population. That's one of the areas. Renewable energy. You can provide it to the people. You can use the sun, the sun, which is being abundantly given to us, and transform that into DC current. You also have procurement and logistics. Today, a person sitting in his office in Monrovia wants to eat from my Mary's shop or Quinnie restaurant, we have to walk there and get the food. So logistic can be, you just program some of the motorcyclists on your platform that the person in the office can just look at your app. Apps are becoming very, very less expensive these days. You can have your app, and then you order food, and the food is delivered to you in your office. Also, let's look at e-commerce business. You have lots of e-commerce businesses coming, like we carry in Senegal. Let's say, brother, that you can order a keke, the sort of big motorcycle that we have in Monrovia. You can order that now, like you do with Uber in Nigeria. So these are businesses we're looking at. Like, for example, even in planning party, we saw on our images last week, many of our people are graduating. Many of them do not have the idea how to organize their own event. You can organize event for them. You can also organize, like when Quinnie and I decide to go to Monrovia and organize seminar, we don't have the time to go and organize the conference. You can have a business that you can contact and say, organize our conference like this. We need 200 people who will be attending, and that's a service. We'll be willing to pay for that service because we know that entrepreneurs are involved in that. And also employee training. You have people being employed in Liberia, they haven't gone through formal training. And people who have gone through formal training since the 1970s have not had a chance to do workshop. So if you have a business that provides, periodic training for employee, you can get contract from people. And these are some of the businesses that I can think about right now. And if Quinnie wants, you can check me.
I'm taking notes. I think for the association that you are saying, I think that's something we need to talk about, because for me, I'm trying to, especially around stakeholders of Liberia, I'm trying to create an association. So I think we need to talk more about that business idea. I think that's it's centered around community and trying to work around a special community. So yes, I'm gonna go upstairs. I have our guests, but let me go upstairs, okay?
Good, good.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So let bring us to some of our viewers' comments. Anthony Sia is a partner here at Focus on Liberia. He said, excellent discussion on entrepreneurship. Now I know the difference between entrepreneurship and business. Admekid Sharif say, I disagree that a business person is not an entrepreneur. A business person is also an entrepreneur, although I agree that risk-taking, value addition, or innovation in the same product or service line is a core of entrepreneurship. What's your response?
I understand what he's saying. So these things can intermingle. Like, for example, you have a cell, you put the two cells together, and they all meet, but there's other places that they don't meet. So business and entrepreneurship, they might meet on certain things. They're all providing value to the people, but the key difference is entrepreneurs are moving forward and creating new markets and creating new services and new goods and things like that. So they're all intertwined. I agree with what Amara said. There can be one in certain area. They can also be different in certain areas.
And Musu Stewart, I think there are entrepreneurs in Liberia. One problem that is they struggle to get local support for their goods and services.
Yeah, Musu, we alluded to that. Yeah, we know that government needs to come in with infrastructure development that can help one place. So we have a record on agriculture. More than 35% of the agricultural products are lost on the way from the farm to the city. So that's a huge chunk of the profit that's being lost. And no business person is involved in making roads because roads are public goods.
Sorry, Quinnie, that cover your face. Entrepreneurship has a risk-taking dimension. That's what separates an entrepreneur from, for instance, a petty trader who has a ready market for their goods. Entrepreneurs, in most cases, develop their own markets. Usually, the business set up by entrepreneurs are scalable and repeatable. Those are features you do not find in petty trading, like the Lebanese and Indian petty trading business.
You got it right, Joe. That's what I meant when I made that when I made the distinction.
Ahmed K. Salif, second. Unfortunately, most of our young people are attracted to the corrupt, rent-seeking, and political government jobs sector because they are no role models, incentives, or motivation, nor they are public sector in environment.
So those of us who are making these suggestions now are saying that we need to change the narrative and move the young people from this position to the next one.
Because a young person who is in the street shouting, "Oh, say!" I mean, that's a good skill, but how do we, all of us, help move that young person from saying, "I will say," to something, maybe selling your fufu?
Or even like, how can we add value to what they're currently doing? How can we add value to the boy that's running around delivering water to all these incoming cars? How can we add value to what he's doing? And, it starts from there. And it's just one thing too I've learned in my own ecosystem. What I do is not so focused on repositioning ourselves to another platform, but adding value to the platform in which we operate, because that becomes the story to who we are and the story to our brand and our services. You see, most entrepreneurs back in Liberia and just the Liberian population, most of them, and this is not a statistic here, but are interested in coming overseas to work and live. But what about those in Liberia that have utilized the resources around them and not even thinking to reposition themselves, but to create value in our community, in our very county that they're operating in, for the local community members and leaders? And I think that's really important, because we need to inject value where it needs to be and where it's currently operating, before we can create this dialogue amongst the Liberian in a diaspora and say, hey, here is what I'm doing back in Liberia. Here is the value in Liberia. Hey, here is the value in Australia. Here is the value in New Jersey, and bringing that together.
Quinnie, can you move your body up a little bit? Thank you. And Musu Stewart,
that's right. That's right.
Oh, thank you.
The environment has to be supportive for entrepreneurship to be truly prosperous. And Musu had another comment here, which was in line with what we were saying. Okay, and Quinnie, you mentioned that even though they are saying the Zegwe, but how can we add value to that? So Musu is saying maybe we can monetize politics.
Yes, that's right.
Politicians.
Yeah, that's right. The problem is they can say Zegwe, they can go and make speeches. If they start to say, okay, my speech worth this amount of money, or if I give 2 or 3 speeches, I would like to get a term money from you to go to university. I think that would be a monetization of their skills.
And like building training sections and little workshop, like conferences we are talking about, Brother Amara, just all these resources and just delivering to people, giving them all these little navigators to link into, to loop themselves into, and to be part of this change, from anywhere. If you're just a young girl that's educating young girls like yourself, around feminism and about, whatever you're doing. I work with an organization, it's called Girls of Destiny Purity in Liberia. Her name is Grace, and she's teaching girls to live in purity, and that's just beautiful in itself, teaching that character and that lesson to our women. That's creating a generation of women that if they get into this business field, they are taking their character, they're taking their identity with them, and not just that organization impacting people in that dialogue. We can start from there. We can just start from next door, helping a kid, taking to Bible. I'm taking to like a bookstore where you can teach him how to read, helping a girl, finding scholarship. There is so much that you can do. You don't have to just attack the big picture. There is so much that you can do. And it starts just from the local community standpoint, even from your home, entrepreneur in your home. So yeah, to what you are saying, Musu, I think.
Yeah, Musu.
Great show, great topic, Dennis, and we must thank Amara, our guest, who. So there are 2 comments here, and I want to drill down on them a little more. Musu Stewart says intellectual property laws have to be strengthened to protect people's idea. Joe Moyo is saying landscape government must have regulatory framework, rules and regulations that would enable entrepreneurship. That is tax credit, contract right, property rights, etc. Okay, Musu earlier said the environment has to be supportive.
Yes.
So that brings me to the point of the landscape again, because we don't have a school system that train entrepreneurs or even business people. Like I joke, when I was growing up, I said when I was growing up, if you're a man, you like money, they say you're going to be a rogue. If you're a lady and you like money, they say you're going to be on the street. So actually, business or entrepreneurship ideas were not very encouraged early on in our education. Those were not built in. And then when it comes to the government side, there are no laws, right, that will protect your intellectual property. If you were doing something right now, if I ask you, okay, for this, because this is a training session, so you have to pay $10 to be able to watch this show on Focus on Liberia. You say, well, what wrong with Dennis? He got 4, right? So when we look at the landscape, there are barriers, right? A friend of mine went home to advise people that were running. So he said he wanted to develop their platform and do this. He said, look, that will not work here, because if you are running for an elected position, you must already have money. Even if you don't pretend that you have money, because the people will only vote for you when they see that you have money. You can build their roads, you can build their toilets, you can build their pumps and all that. So the landscape there, really, Amara, let's talk more about how can, the environment, the people, how can that support entrepreneurship?
Yeah, one of your guests the other day talked about how unstable the government is. Our successive government, for example, if one political party leaves power, the next time, even the cleaners are all going. So he was trying to suggest that even the ministers and the assistant and deputy minister can stay. So the ecosystem is that there's no consistency of government. So one government is there today, and you're having discussion with them, and all of a sudden there's an election, all of them leave. Even directors go along with the old government and the new people coming. You have to start the conversation again. And you were talking about money. When young girls used to like money, they would say, oh, she will be this. And also, what's about agriculture? Every time I got punished in school was to give me cutlass to go and press something else. So ever since then, I've thought about agriculture as a form of punishment. It's always in the psyche. So it's for people who have committed some crime and they're going on a fee to do something. So the whole ecosystem has to be supported of entrepreneurship and new idea coming out of the young people. So we ourselves, like people who are very interested in this, have to be able to inform, our lawmakers so that they can be aware of some of the things that they need to incorporate into our law.
Yeah, I think Joe posted a really good question. I think this is good to put it up.
About COVID?
Yes, this is, yes.
COVID-19 has presented an opportunity for rubber farmers. There is a shortage of latex gloves on the global market. Those gloves are used in clinics and hospitals. Our farmers could set up a manufacturing facility for latex gloves. They could make millions in the process. The IFC will finance them. Joe, what is IFC? so in fact, there were people that were not, before COVID, that were not producing. They were producing something else, but it saw that now you can produce hand sanitizer. So that's where I think Joe's example is coming from.
Yes, we need to repurpose. We need to repurpose our economy based on the situation. So we can't continue to have the same economic thinking. But the world has shifted and the ground has shifted beneath us. So we need to rethink our whole economic ecosystem to be able to produce value. So if you say, okay, before the COVID-19, you say you're going to create jobs in the glove industry, people will laugh at you. What am I doing with glove? But because there is a value now attached to gloves, and it's creating jobs. So the demand for it has increased. So jobs are being created as a result of that. So we need to repurpose. We need to take advantage of our competitive advantage. Liberia has a competitive advantage, and we are not taking advantage of those things. For example, the production of cassava. I was reading a book. I think that's a very old book in the 90s. Liberia was in the Guinness record producing the heaviest cassava. So that's a competitive advantage because Liberia is the only country, by and large, in the ECOWAS country that has not been touched by the desert. We still have rainforests all over our country. So we need to prioritize some of the things that we have competitive advantage for. And one of that will be agriculture.
And Joe, more you say, I think entrepreneurship should be taught in schools from 6th grade and above. That will help young people reframe or reimagine problems and find solutions at an early age. And Joe, here in America, my youngest is in 3rd grade. And the projects they give them to do about company, when my son was in 3rd grade, the one in 9th grade now, they had a project that they were going to, I think, Spain or somewhere else. And they have to create business. It blew me away because I went to their school when they were doing their presentation. So yes, Joe, you are right.
Yeah, Joe is right. We can take the example from Germany and Japan. Can you imagine Japan in 1945 when Americans were living in their helicopters and leaving the Japanese either wounded or clinically dead or wounded? What the Japanese were looking at from year one, they encouraged entrepreneurship, and all of that came Toyota, Panasonic, and all of the things that we know Japan for today. And Germany did the same thing. That's why they are the biggest economy in Europe. So we need to teach entrepreneurship. Joe is absolutely right. We need to teach entrepreneurship in our school.
Yeah, and we need to teach it with our history aligned, because we first need to know what values and what resources we have. I think in Liberia, we need to start teaching our history, start teaching our literature, start teaching our story, okay? We don't need to be teaching the white man's story, because the white man's story is not going to help entrepreneurs identify problems and solutions. So I think that's a really good point. We have to change the curriculum that supports entrepreneurship in Liberia through our national identity. And that's very, very important. That's so much important. If we're going to teach entrepreneurship in our school, let it be linked to our national identity, so that whatever we decide to do or problems to solve, it should be able to then create a system that re-injects back into our economy. Okay.
Yeah. We have our quest. We have our own money. We found solution for our own problem.
Our own problem, and then found that the money goes to us. We take our own money. Okay, nobody will take that money out because
it's very important that you mentioned that, because what our education has done over the years is teach us to solve problems that are not our problems. Okay, the problems are, we are training people. We live in an area where there is no clean drinking water, where there's mosquitoes, red ants all over the place. Yet nobody goes to school to do how to purify water. There's water everywhere in Monrovia. Can we not process that and put it in bottles? We don't do that in school. We live in a place where we are not even in my village. They are the drums and the basket, the mats, and all these things, the places that we live in. Yet we don't train people to build those things. Yeah. So that's another thing I want to mention. Muzu said it here, is one does not have to be educated or literate to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, yes.
It is the practical idea that matters. And I see the women in Douala market, those people, I compare them for being like on Wall Street. Some of them have not gone to school. So let's talk about some entrepreneur ideas that you don't have to go to school to have them.
Yeah, for example, you know that peppers or bitter balls and things are perishable, right?
Yeah.
The idea to save them, to elongate their lifespan, their usable life, is an entrepreneurial skill. So how do you don't need to go to school to do that. You just need to understand the method to do that, so that it can spend the next 6 months with you, and then you can have control on your price. But if you have a perishable good in Monrovia, from the rural area, anyone can call any price to you, you'll be willing to sell it, because you know in 1 week you're going to run out of that. It's going to be zero residual value attached to that product. So for one will be how to store some of the product that we already have.
You create a pepper drying place, you're good.
Yes, and also right now, to transfer money from one person to another has been made easy by mobile money. So it's easier now for you to do that, not in Monrovia, where people will be affected. You can do your business outside of Monrovia, but you receive payment in Monrovia.
That's it. Let's use our resources. Let's hire Liberian. Let's keep our money between ourselves. Let's keep our money in between us, between whatever we do. And I feel like, to what you are saying, Brother Amara, about the market right now, and talking about the demand. I think COVID-19 provided two demands. One is temporary demand and long-term demand. And in that very looking at these two demands right now, like hand sanitizer, apparently it's a long-term, it's a short-term demand, because obviously there will come a time, hopefully when COVID rests and everything is resting, showed that most of us will not even be using hand sanitizer. What's going to replace hand sanitizer? Another disease going to come, and then going to add value to another product or to another service. So the question is, our market in Liberia, it's so condensed. We're doing the same thing. We're not coming together. If someone opened a store, you open the same store. How are we creating capital and revenue? We have to just collectively do things now and start to work on profitable ideas that would then help our country. Because if someone's doing a consulting business in Liberia, why would you come and then open another consulting business in Liberia? You have to now come up with these different ideas that we attack different system and create different system. Let's start building system rather than opening businesses and services. Let's build system that will be able to help existing businesses to function in terms of even electricity, roads, logistics, import, export. These are our problems. Let's have system solve these problems before coming up with another problem with a whole new solution. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. So the primary responsibility is for us to identify the problems, and then we can find solution together. But the first thing is the problems. The problems are different in different countries. And right now, for example, Ghana identified a problem quite recently, and I was reading about that. They said no foreign person is to do retail. They have to be a wholesaler to be able to work in the Ghanaian market right now. That will give advantage to the local businesses that are doing retailing. And that is incorporated in the World Trade Organization guideline called Protection of Infant Industry. You have to be able to do that. But individuals cannot do that. Private individuals. It has to be the government initiative to be able to help the young entrepreneur. So the failure rate is really hard. You have a business today, next year it is not there. It's not there because the market has been polluted. There is no system in place to have the infant industry.
Thank you.
Let's talk about structured network after this.
Jeremiah Moses is loving this. He said, I love this conversation, entrepreneurship and education. That's
join our entrepreneur hour. Our entrepreneur hour. Yes.
Jeremiah, that's a very good thing. So we need to give the education. It doesn't have to be a classroom education. It can be education that can make you think, and you think about the problems and find solutions.
Yes.
And Joe is saying an entrepreneur has the mindset that within every crisis lies an opportunity.
Yes.
So we are.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Every crisis will present their own opportunity for people, and then you have to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
And so we are almost at the end of our broadcast. This is just a teaser. We're going to do more of this. We're going to hopefully have the crew back at some point to do this again. But before we wrap up and get your closing comments, I want to show you what is in the pipeline. Right here on Focus on Liberia. This evening, 6 p.m., we're going to be here with, as part of our history, in commemoration of the Black History Month. The former professor at William V.S. Tubman University and also Cottington University, Dr. Timothy Nevin, was there teaching history. He will be here to present the time and life of Chief Swakoko. That's Swakoko in Bong County. Chief Swakoko died in 1930, so it will be right here. Then on Sunday, Dr. George Kier will continue with the history series on the development policies of some of our presidents, starting with the autonomous capitalist development all the way to the pro-poor agenda. You don't want to miss that. And just as a teaser, this is Madame Swakoko. You see her son and his two wives, and also the tombstone of Chief Swakoko. It's very, very interesting to talk about this lady. I mean, being a chief in the 19th century, that's in Liberia. So why in America women couldn't vote? We have women president in Liberia. That's Chief Swakoko. You don't want to miss that. Also during this week, as soon as here, our political bulldog, who's the host of the Hour of Politics, will be periscoping some top names and political players in Liberia. This Tuesday, former Vice President Joseph Newman Boakai will be periscope. We'll be looking at his life, his political activities that span almost 40 years. You don't want to miss it. So let's get your closing comments as we close the broadcast for today. Let me start with Mr. Amara V. Toure, our guest. Musu is still sharing a great show, great topic. Thank you, Musu. So
join us for our Entrepreneur Hour. We're going to talk more juice around entrepreneurship. And Brother Amara is going to be our special guest. Woo-hoo!
I look forward to it. All right.
Your closing comments.
So what happened is this. It bothers me when I see young people gasping for air and dying on the Mediterranean Sea trying to go to Europe. When all of the world is focusing on Africa right now, our young people are dying at sea, going up there. It really bothers me. So one of the things that can alleviate that will be entrepreneurship, creating opportunity for them, creating jobs for them, looking at how they can improve their life and the life of their children. So that's the whole thing. And in the Liberian situation, we need to have a little bit of faith in our country. And what is faith to me? I would say it in a way that Nelson Mandela said it. Faith is the ability to see the invincible that other people are not seeing, and to trust the unknown, and to believe in the impossible. So that's my hope for Liberia right now. And I look forward to having a show like this on and on.
Thank you, Mr. Toure. Let's go to Quinnie.
Oh my gosh, Denise, thank you so much for this opportunity. You guys, what you're doing, it's amazing. It's amazing. Giving and providing platforms that really talks into all expertise, bring people together, bring information together. I want to acknowledge Focus on Liberia. I'm one of your top fans, so that's a huge accomplishment on my end. But my name is Quinnie Collins. You guys can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm everything that have to do with stakeholders of Liberia. I love working on different projects and initiatives. And just to close, I want to give a little bit of knowledge around this project that I'm working on, and it's called the Liberian Learning Center. The Liberian Learning Center focused on transforming the educational landscape and providing a diverse set of resources to a catchment of over 100,000 community members. Supporting, bringing that to our Liberian population. If you want to know more around this project, if you have some question around this project, I am your person to talk to. I'm looking for people like yourself, entrepreneurs, organizations, institutions like Liberian institution to come together so that we can work on this project together and align our interests, because there is so much in it for you guys. So reach out to me on LinkedIn, Quinnie Collins, so we can discuss about this project. And I am so happy. Also, our entrepreneur section is going to start soon. I know Brother Denise is happy for this section, so I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to thank our viewers for staying here with us. This is what we like to do at Focus on Liberia. We always want to create a platform where we can educate, we can elevate and promote all things Liberia. Join us later at 6, where we're going to be having our history on Chief Swakoko. Until then, from me to you, say thanks for watching, goodbye, and God bless you.
We are Liberia. Liberia people. Liberia.